Christianity turned its back on men. For men 30 years of age and under, especially on the internet, atheism is the religion of choice. Young women are still usually believers because the church still treats women well. More often than not, the young men who turn to atheism are the smart ones, but they are blind to the real reason they have chosen atheism. All atheists will say is because it's logical, or it's science, or it's so obvious. What they have yet to put together is the Christian church turned its back on men in favor of girl power and sealed its own doom. Christianity worships women as the better half and those that can do no wrong, and condemns men for not raising children properly, not taking care of family properly, not manning up, not getting married, etc. You can go to any Christian church on Mother's Day, and they will praise all that is woman. Go to a Christian church on Father's Day, and you will get a lecture about how men have screwed up and how they should act better. How many times do you think a man will continue to go to that church before he A, quits, or B, believes it and turns into an effete weakling doing the bidding of every woman he meets? Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world by number of conversions each year. That means former Christians are turning to Islam, and I will tell you why. Islam has respect for men. It's as simple as that. You may even be shocked to learn that more women convert to Islam than men. Women need respect for men just as men do. Wherever there are self-respecting men, women will be there lining up. Western Christianity built that great country of ours, but it turned its back on the people it needs the most, and it will die because of that unless it changes its misandrous ways. If the Christian church started valuing and respecting men, men would start respecting themselves again, and they would go back to the church in waves, and they would start acting like men again. The church used to be a place a man could go to find a good woman. Now it's a place he can go to hear about what a piece of shit he is. No thanks. Solution. Forget what would Jesus do. Turn the other cheek is weak. If you do what the church says, you'll get slapped in the mouth and then run away and cry on your girlfriend's shoulder while she dreams of a stronger man ravaging her. What would Sean Connery do?